rolling up the sleeves of her crisp white coat. Amy glanced at her watch, 7 a.m. sharp. The night shift was finally over. The faint orange light of dawn filtered through the wide windows of Phoenix General Hospital's pediatric ward, painting soft stripes of gold on the tiled floor. The rhythmic beeping of monitors mixed with the quiet murmurs of nurses changing shifts, the familiar soundtrack of her life. "Good work, Wilson," called out her colleague Kate, holding a steaming cup of coffee in one hand and a clipboard in the other. "You survived another 12-hour night." Amy smiled faintly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her forehead. The exhaustion in her eyes couldn't hide the quiet strength behind them. Her white coat, slightly wrinkled from the long shift, bore the faint scent of antiseptic and lavender hand sanitizer. Kate leaned against the counter, curiosity lighting up her face. "You know, your mom came up in conversation yesterday. She used to teach at that fancy Phoenix Academy, right? Someone mentioned she's a big deal now in the Paradise Valley Women's Circle." Amy's smile faltered, her eyes lowering to the paperwork in front of her. "Something like that," she murmured. Kate chuckled, oblivious to the shift in Amy's expression. "And she's big in charity, right? I think she was vice president of that Desert Botanical Garden fundraiser last month. Saw her name in the paper." Amy's hand paused mid-signature. Her throat tightened. The subject of her mother, Martha Brown, a woman admired by many but understood by few, was one she tried to avoid. There was a time when Amy, too, had admired her, but that was long ago. The shrill ring of the nurse's station phone cut through the air, rescuing Amy from having to respond. "I'll get that," she said quickly, grateful for the interruption. As she moved toward the sound, she caught her reflection in the glass door, tired eyes, pale lips, but still composed. Years of night shifts had sculpted her into someone who could hold herself together even when the world seemed to fall apart. That evening, in the modest but immaculate living room of her small apartment, her 8-year-old son Noah sat at the dining table, pencil in hand, tongue slightly out in concentration as he tackled his math homework. "Mom, look, I solved this one," he said proudly, holding up his notebook. Amy turned from the stove, where she was stirring a pot of macaroni and cheese, his favorite meal. "Well, would you look at that?" she said warmly, wiping her hands on her apron and walking over to inspect it. "You got it right. Genius." Noah's grin was wide, his brown eyes shining with the same warmth his father once had. For a fleeting moment, Amy saw her late husband's face in that smile. The memory made her chest ache, but also gave her strength. 3 years had passed since the car accident that had taken him, 3 years of double shifts, sleepless nights, and quiet tears after Noah went to bed. Her phone buzzed. A new social media notification lit up the screen. When she unlocked it, her heart sank. There, on the glossy feed, was a photo of her mother and sister Laura, elegantly dressed at the upscale restaurant Alon's. Crystal chandeliers glittered above them, and luxury handbags rested on their chairs like silent trophies. In the corner of the picture, little Emma, Laura's daughter, Noah's best friend, smiled innocently, unaware of the invisible wall that separated their families. Amy stared at the picture for a long moment. Her sister, with her perfect life and $150,000 a year real estate career, always knew how to pose for the camera. Martha, ever the image-conscious matriarch, basked in the glow of her successful daughter. Amy sighed and set the phone face down. She didn't belong in that world anymore, the world of expensive brunches and polished reputations. She belonged here, in this tiny apartment filled with second-hand furniture and the laughter of her child. "Dinner's ready," she said softly. The next afternoon at Phoenix Academy, the hallway buzzed with excitement. "Emma's birthday party is gonna be huge," one girl exclaimed. "They're renting out the Arizona Biltmore. There's even gonna be poolside catering." Noah, standing at his locker, froze. He hadn't received an invitation. "Hey, Noah," came a small voice. He turned. Emma stood there, holding her backpack straps tightly. Her eyes were downcast. I'm sorry," she said quietly. That was all, but he understood. It wasn't her fault. The adults had drawn the line between them. That evening, the warm scent of baked cheese filled the kitchen. Amy placed the steaming bowl in front of her son. "Here you go, your favorite." "Thanks, Mom," he said, smiling faintly. As they began to eat, Amy's phone buzzed again. A message from her mother. I'm busy packing for the cruise. We're going to make wonderful memories with Laura's family. It's not your world, so don't worry about it. Amy's jaw tightened. She didn't reply. She set the phone down and looked across the table at Noah, who was humming softly as he ate. Let's eat, she said quietly, forcing a smile. Outside, the Arizona wind howled, carrying dust and the faint scent of desert sage. Amy didn't know it yet, but that wind was the first whisper of a coming storm, one that would soon change everything. 2 days later, the phone at the nurse's station rang sharply. Amy picked it up, half distracted by paperwork. This is Phoenix Academy, said a tense voice on the line. We have an emergency, a student has fallen down the stairs. Amy's pen slipped from her hand. Who? She asked, though a part of her already knew. The name that came next made her knees weaken. Noah Wilson. Her breath caught, the next seconds blurred. Wilson is conscious, but his pupils are uneven. We've called an ambulance, the school nurse said rapidly. The receiver nearly slipped from Amy's grasp. She steadied herself on the counter, her mind racing. Kate, take over my rounds, she shouted. Room 3's patient is stable, I'm heading to the ER. Her white coat billowed behind her as she sprinted down the hallway. Every step echoed in her chest like thunder. When she reached the emergency room, a team was already gathered. Noah lay on a stretcher, his small body motionless except for the rise and fall of shallow breaths. His forehead bore a faint cut, and his uniform was dusted with dirt. Suspected subdural hematoma. The neurosurgeon, Dr. Thompson, said briskly. Prep for surgery. Surgery? Amy's voice cracked. Dr. Thompson looked at her gravely. Yes, there's bleeding in the brain. It's urgent. We'll need $30,000 up front. Insurance won't cover all of it. Amy's world tilted. She staggered back. 30,000. It was more than half a year's salary. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone and dialed her mother's number. Once, twice, 5 times. No answer. Finally, on the 10th ring, hello? The background was full of laughter and the clinking of champagne glasses. Her mother's voice was airy, amused. Mom, Noah's had an accident, he needs emergency surgery. Amy's voice broke. A sigh. Really, Amy? I'm on a cruise. Can't you handle things like an adult? But it's serious, please. Enough. You made your choices. Deal with them. Then a familiar, mocking voice chimed in, Laura's. Oh, come on, Amy. We're toasting to Emma right now. Don't ruin the mood with your drama. The line went dead. Amy stood frozen, the silence of the hospital crashing around her. Mrs. Wilson? Kate's voice came from behind her, alarmed. But Amy didn't answer. Her body moved on instinct. She turned to Dr. Thompson, her voice low but steady. I'll get the money. Give me 1 hour. The doctor hesitated, reading the fire in her eyes, then nodded. Amy looked down at the silver band on her finger, her wedding ring, the last thing her husband had given her before that rainy night took him away. She slid it off slowly, her reflection in the polished metal trembling. She pressed her lips to Noah's forehead, whispering, Mom's right here. You'll be okay. Then she straightened her shoulders, her exhaustion replaced by resolve, and walked out of the ER doors, ready to do anything it took to save her son. Determination. Tell us. Tell Dad what happened. Emma's small hands trembled as she placed a handmade card on Noah's hospital bedside. The scent of antiseptic filled the room, blending with the rhythmic beeping of the monitor beside the pale, fragile boy who lay asleep. His wrist was wrapped in gauze, his breathing shallow but steady. Noah, I'm sorry, Emma whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of guilt. Grandma and Mom are the ones who are wrong, not you. Michael, who had been silently standing by the window, turned sharply, his voice, calm yet heavy, cut through the room. What do you mean, Emma? In the quiet of the hospital waiting room, Emma's tears finally fell. She had been holding them back for days, ever since the accident. Her small body shook as she sat across from her father, who leaned forward, his eyes filled with concern. Mom always says Aunt Amy is on a different level. Emma began hesitantly, twisting the edge of her sleeve. Large tears rolled down her cheeks. And Grandma too, she says those people don't belong in our world. Michael's expression grew darker, his jaw tightening. They deliberately didn't invite Noah to parties, using his food allergies as an excuse. But that's not the real reason, Emma continued, her voice trembling. She looked up, eyes red and swollen. Mom and Grandma always call Noah, that child, and Aunt Amy too, like they're not part of our family. Her hands clenched. And during the stair accident, Michael's heart pounded. What happened, sweetheart? Emma sobbed. I saw it, Dad. Noah was just doing his homework alone. And then Mom's friend's kids started teasing him. They took his notebook. And when he tried to get it back, he fell. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Michael moved closer, pulling his daughter into his arms. Thank you for telling me, Emma, he said softly. You're a brave, honest girl. The quiet ticking of the clock filled the sterile air. The truth had finally been spoken. That afternoon, in the glass-walled executive office of Phoenix Construction Company, Michael sat alone at his mahogany desk. Outside, the skyline of downtown Phoenix shimmered in the desert heat. He stared at his wife's smartphone, unlocked and glowing on his desk. Normally, he would never invade her privacy, but today, he had a reason. He scrolled through her private messages, his heart growing heavier with each word. The chat between Martha and her friend Laura painted a picture more cruel than he imagined. Amy's son is standing out in class again. That child just can't handle our world. But Emma is handling it well. She keeps an appropriate distance from that child. Yes, the family background is different after all. Michael's breath hitched. Scrolling further, the words grew sharper, like blades coated in honeyed malice. Her husband who died in that accident, just a middle-class man. Amy made her own bed marrying down. Trying to show off with charity work, it's laughable. He set the phone down, trembling. He had spent years managing powerful men, negotiating million-dollar deals, facing corporate crises, but never had he encountered something so venomous, so personal. With calm precision, he began saving screenshots, printing every message, and copying them to a USB. When the printer beeped its final page, he stood. Now we have enough evidence, he said quietly, almost to himself. Then he pressed the intercom. Get the car, quickly. The Phoenix Country Club, usually a sanctuary for the city's elite, buzzed with tension that afternoon. The polished marble floors reflected faces filled with unease as Michael entered, carrying a folder under his arm. This, he said firmly, laying the documents on the long oak table, is the reality. The committee members leaned forward. The words in black and white silenced the room, the mockery, the cruelty, the hypocrisy. For years, Michael continued, voice steady but fierce, while claiming to serve the community and children with disabilities. Certain members have been spreading hate behind closed doors. One woman rose, pale-faced. Is this true? My daughter, Emma Miller, witnessed it firsthand, Michael replied, and these messages, every single one, is preserved as evidence. Gasps filled the room, chairs creaked, even the air seemed to freeze. Then Michael presented one more piece. On the cruise ship, he said coldly, there was a call about a child needing emergency surgery. Their response? No need to continue. No one dared to speak. By nightfall, the first tweet appeared, a whistleblower thread exposing the hypocrisy of Phoenix's charitable elite. Within hours, the post spread like wildfire. Under the night sky, the fountain at the Desert Botanical Garden glistened quietly, unaware that its benefactor's perfect image had just begun to crumble. December 20th, Miami Port. The luxury cruise ship Queen of Paradise docked under a golden sunrise. Martha and Laura stepped off the gangway, designer luggage trailing behind them, laughter still lingering from their perfect vacation. It was wonderful, Martha sighed, adjusting her wide-brimmed hat. I feel so refreshed for the Christmas charity gala. But as they walked toward the taxi stand, they noticed the stares, the whispers, the pointing fingers. Mom, Laura whispered, anxiety creeping into her voice. They're looking at us. Martha frowned. Don't be silly. Then they turned on their phones. Hundreds of unread messages, dozens of missed calls. And the headlines, Charity Vice President exposed in cruel messages. Phoenix Elite's dark secret revealed. Martha's blood ran cold. In the taxi, her voice trembled. This is a misunderstanding. We never. The driver met her gaze in the mirror, eyes cold. Ma'am, I can't take you there. What? Why not? Resident orders. We've been told to restrict access to suspicious individuals. Suspicious? She stammered. I'm the vice president of the charity committee. The driver's next words landed like a final blow. You mean the former vice president? At the Scottsdale real estate office, Laura's secretary stood by her desk, hesitant. Ms. Miller, she said carefully, we've had 15 cancellations since morning. Laura's throat went dry. Why? They said they can't entrust million-dollar properties to someone lacking moral integrity. The phone rang again. Another client gone. Outside, the desert sun illuminated the luxury homes Laura had once sold proudly. Now they looked mocking, hollow, symbols of a world that had turned its back. Then the next message appeared on her phone. Notice of expulsion, Phoenix Luxury Real Estate Association. And another, divorce petition filed, Michael Miller. Her hands began to shake. At Phoenix Academy, a stern voice echoed through the boardroom. All those in favor of revoking Martha Brown's honorary faculty title? Every hand rose. At Desert Botanical Garden, reporters gathered as the charity committee's chairman read aloud. Years of trust have been broken. Actions contradicting our mission, especially toward children with disabilities, will not be tolerated. Martha Brown is hereby expelled. Permanently. Camera flashes burst like lightning. At the Arizona Biltmore Hotel, the manager looked apologetic. I'm sorry, Ms. Brown. Your membership and your gala reservation are cancelled. 30 years of prestige, gone in a single sentence. Back home, Martha sat alone in her once grand study. Piles of letters lay unopened on her desk. Each began the same way. Dear Martha, I must end our association. The setting sun painted the Scottsdale sky in shades of dying red. Her maid entered quietly, placing one last envelope on the table. It's from the Phoenix Symphony Association, she said softly. Martha didn't look up. No need, I already know. Then came Laura's scream from down the hall. Mom, Emma, Michael's demanding full custody. Martha leaned back in her chair, eyes on the ceiling. The Phoenix Best Charity Leader plaque gleamed mockingly under the fading light. Outside, the streetlights flickered on one by one, but they couldn't pierce the darkness that had settled inside her home. Their empire had fallen, silently, completely. 1 year later, winter. The pediatric wing of Phoenix General Hospital buzzed with soft laughter and the squeak of children's sneakers. Amy, now head pediatric nurse, walked confidently through the halls, clipboard in hand. Head nurse Wilson, progress report for room 3? Asked a junior nurse. Amy smiled, stable and improving. Just then, a familiar voice echoed. Mom. Noah came running, cheeks flushed, eyes sparkling. I finished my homework, and guess what? Wait up, Noah. Emma's voice followed. The two children burst into laughter as they ran down the corridor together. Michael appeared, smiling warmly. Amy. Great work as always. I thought of taking the kids to a movie tonight. Want to come? Amy shook her head gently. I'd love to, but I'm on the night shift. She watched them go, her heart full. A year ago, her life had been shattered. Now, it was full of light. Far away, in Albuquerque, a woman packed the last of her boxes into a small, worn-down apartment. This is the last one, Martha murmured, her once delicate hands now tired and rough. Around her were only the remnants of a lost life, a few photographs, an old gown, a tarnished plaque. Her phone buzzed. It was Laura. Mom, I saw Emma today, her daughter said softly. Martha's voice trembled. Is she doing well? Yes, Laura whispered, but she wouldn't call me Mom. A pause. Michael might be getting remarried. After the call, Martha sat at the small table, flipping through an old photo album. Smiling faces, gala dresses, charity banners, all ghosts of a world that had forgotten her. In a modest new home on the outskirts of Phoenix, Amy turned the key. Is this okay? She asked. Noah's eyes widened. It's perfect. We even have a backyard. Inside, The family gathered. Laughter filled the air, coffee brewing, pencils scratching as the children worked on homework. Photos on the wall showed the new beginning they had built. Amy, Michael, Noah, and Emma. "Hey, look," Emma said, holding an envelope. It was a letter from Laura. "Dear Emma, Mom is truly sorry. Back then, I was blinded by vanity. I hope one day you can forgive me." Emma placed it gently on the table. "I'm still thinking about what to say." Michael put an arm around her shoulders. "Take your time, sweetheart. Be honest with your heart." The doorbell rang, a delivery. Inside was an official letter. Amy opened it slowly. "It's from Mayo Clinic," she whispered, smiling. "They've offered me a transfer as a pediatric specialist nurse." Michael beamed. "You deserve it." Amy hugged her son. "We'll keep doing our best, together." Outside, the Arizona sunset painted the sky gold and pink. There were no shadows left, only peace. And so, in that warm home filled with laughter and second chances, a new story began, one built not on wealth or status, but on love, forgiveness, and truth.